Hi, this is our third session, and in our third session, we are going to talk about contributive diplomacy of today's Korea. In this photo, President Yoon Suk-yeol is having a meeting with the Elder. The Elders is an international non-governmental organization of senior public figures. It was launched by former South African President Nelson Mandela in Johannesburg to boost world peace and human rights. The Elders comprises 11 global figures, and the former United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon is serving as deputy chair. In this meeting, the Korea's president is promising to expand Korea's contributive diplomacy in the international community. And I quote, "The Republic of Korea will further expand its diplomacy of responsibility and contribution based on the universal values of freedom and the rule of law and international norms." A year before, upon the visit to the United Nations, President Yoon Suk-yeol made a speech in the United Nations, and the President's Council stated that the keywords penetrating his speech were freedom, solidarity, economic security, and contributive diplomacy. At the end of that year, Korea announced its version of Indo-Pacific strategy titled "The Strategy for a Free, Peaceful, and Prosperous Indo-Pacific Region." Korea's version of Indo-Pacific strategy understands the region comprised with 6 sub-regions, including Africa. 9 core functional areas provide substance ranging from security to public diplomacy. They are, first, build regional order based on norms and rules. Second, cooperate to promote rule of law and human rights. Third, strengthen non-proliferation and counterterrorism efforts across the region. Fourth, expand comprehensive security cooperation. And fifth, build economic security networks. Up to here, you can have a sense that the Korean government is trying to expand its perception of security from traditional military security to broader concept of security, including economic security and comprehensive security. And then it follows. Sixth, strengthen cooperation in critical domains of science and technology and close digital gap. Seventh, lead regional cooperation on climate change and energy security. Eighth, engage in contributive diplomacy through tailored development cooperation partnership. And this 8th strategic vision our lecture is focusing on. And 9th, promote mutual understanding and exchanges. The term contributive diplomacy, as you see in Korea's Indo-Pacific strategy, is not a new concept. Myung-bak administration, which started its term in 2008, used the term contributory diplomacy, and with the lingo of contributory diplomacy, the government meant expansion of contribution diplomacy as a core task of global Korea. And it did not start from the Myung-bak government either. In fact, the contributive or contributory diplomacy can date back even further to Roh Moo-hyun administration. Korea's initiative for African government, which is introduced by the Roh Moo-hyun government, is a visible commitment to development in Africa and contributive diplomacy. The Korea's Initiative for African Development set out its International Development Cooperation Plan for Africa in a number of highlighted areas, such as to share development experiences, to triple its ODA to Africa by 2018, and to establish regular meetings between Korea and African ministerial representatives and heads of states. Development cooperation played a significant role in modern diplomatic history of Korea. The first form of development assistance happened in 1963. It was a training program sponsored by aid from the United States, USAID. Later on, Korea started a little bit of invitation projects and dispatching expert project, but the size was pretty small and insignificant, and up until the mid-1970s, the projects were financed by multilateral organizations such as the United Nations. It was 1977. The Korea provided its own funding for international development cooperation. Ever since, the size of international development cooperation by the Korean government has ever increased. It was not just aid volume. Korea Development Institute started invitation program and invited government officials of aid receiving countries or partner countries and provided training courses that shares Korea's development experiences. This project was started in 1982. It was the time that Korea was repositioning its status in international society. Korea successfully finished 1986 Asian Games, and its economy has been growing successfully and fast. Around this time, international society began to expect more responsibility from a country like Korea, the newly industrializing countries. In response to this pressure and expectation, the Korean government established the Economic Development Cooperation Fund, which is called EDCF, in 1987. The establishment of EDCF meant that Korea has now turned to a proper aid-giving country. Additionally, contributive diplomacy was a symbolic diplomatic practice that shows that Korea is deserved to be the member of the United Nations. The Korea government dispatched its first ODA volunteer in 1990, and a year after, the Korea International Cooperation Agency, which is also called KOICA, is established. KOICA is in charge of grant aid in Korea, and having grant aid agency means that Korea is ready to become a responsible member of international society. And it also showed that Korea is willing to help other countries and contribute to the peace and prosperity of the world as a member of the United Nations. Thanks to this enduring commitment to contributive diplomacy, Korea was able to become an official member of the United Nations in September of the same year. In this session, we talked about contributive diplomacy of Korea from a contemporary perspective. Thank you.